Now it's time for Movie Friends with your hosts Michelle and Seth. We're talking film without pretension. We're finding cats that are unexpected. We'll watch a movie, film, or schmovie, and we want you to join our journey. So subscribe and share this podcast, or this might just be the last of the Movie Friends. We're movie friends. We want to be your movie friends.
Welcome to New Release Review, part of the Movie Friends podcast. My name is Seth. Today we are talking about Avatar, Fire and Ash from 2025, directed by Jemaine Clement. Now we will be discussing spoilers throughout this entire episode, so if you've not yet seen the 3-hour and 17-minute film, Avatar, Fire and Ash, please pause this, go watch that film, and then come back and listen. We have a returning guest today, and I will say this is a Movie Friends first, the first ever standing guest. That's right, folks. Paul Muad'Dib, a.k.a. Paul Trygraptor, a.k.a. Trygraptor, is back, and he's standing up. I've never seen this before. Paul, how are you?
I'm doing great, Seth. I feel like I just got back from a retreat to Pandora.
Wow.
Yeah, feeling enriched in my soul. How are you?
I'm good. I am tired. All week we've been waking up at 5:30 in the morning to record a morning show that no one asked for.
It's the best kind.
On top of this being like a really busy week work-wise, and in the middle of that, I went and watched a 3-hour and 17-minute movie, and it did not quite feel like a retreat for me. But I'm curious for you, before we hop into Fire and Ash, what is your Avatar journey?
You know, I saw Avatar in 2009, right, when it came out, and was like,
that?
Yeah, that's pretty good, cool.
Yeah.
Went on with my high school life, and then The Way of Water was coming out. The re-release happened. I had seen Dune, and that did things to my brain that just opened the gate for Avatar to walk right in and just take over a big part of my brainstem. So pretty hard into it. I've seen the first one like a lot now. It's kind of a comfort movie, and definitely the same with Way of Water. So I was pretty excited, like pretty high ante to go into this one. And yourself,
Very cool.
I think, is a little opposite experience.
Well, when Avatar came out, I was very much like, I don't really care about like CGI movies. Like that really wasn't very interesting to me. And I believe when the first one came out. Now, okay, listeners, I just want to tell you right now, I cannot hear you screaming at me in your car. So go ahead. I'm not going to say calm down. I'm not going to do all the things that podcast hosts normally say. I'm going to tell you, let it loose, okay? I am more than happy to be the the subject of all of your ire. When the first Avatar came out, it made a lot of money, right? Like, was it the highest earner?
Didn't it make like the most money?
I think so, right?
Like all the money, I think it made.
Yeah. And that's why they were like, we're going to make 10, right? And it was not part of anything that I was involved in or interested in. I think I got married in 2009. Is that possible? My wife literally just walked through the room and looked at me and said yes. So I was kind of on a different cinematic journey than Avatar at that point.
Yeah, I feel roughly the same.
Yeah. And so it just kind of went by, whatever. I only watched the first one within the last 2 years, I would say. And I watched it at home, and I watched it with the baggage of this movie made like more money than any other movie ever has. And so I go into it with a chip on my shoulder, and I'm watching it. I'm just like, this movie sucks. Like, what are you talking about? This is the movie? Now, I will say that I think that the Avatar movies are fun. Like, at a bare minimum, they are fun. The first one, at the time, I'm sure looked really, really good.
Absolutely.
Now, at home on my little Roku TV, not great, you know. Went to see Wave the Water? Wave Water?
The Way of Water, I think.
The Way of Water in theaters. I think I was like 4th row from the front. Get blasted with, and I will say, great. I mean, it looks incredible. Looks incredible. Of course, it looks incredible in the theater. I maybe saw it in 3D. But I had the same feeling of like, this story just doesn't really do much for me. And then I went to see Fire and Ash. And I was like, I was coaching myself as the movie is going, which is never a good sign. But I was like, just let go. Just be with it. Like, just be with the movie. Be with the movie. And I kept saying that to myself. It's like, what do people get out of this? What do people see? Like, try to find, like, and so I'm like trying to find that spiritual experience that people say that they have with this world and with these characters and with the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't do it.
Awa did not hear your plea.
No, and it was pretty funny because when we're seeing like the giant face of Awa, and I was like, Awa just kind of looks disinterested. Like, and I really liked that idea of a disinterested deity. And I was like, I kind of feel like Awa right now. Like, I'm like kind of turning halfway to look, and I'm like, what?
Just
what do you want?
Casting a side eye at the characters.
Okay, so that's my journey and kind of my general thought on Fire and Ash. What about you? How did you find this one?
I, something about me is that when I see a movie and I really love it, it usually takes me kind of a long time to figure that out. Like the first time I saw Dune, a movie I famously love a lot, it took me like a whole sleep to wake up and be like, wow, I loved that movie. This was like the first time I remember just like every scene, just watching a movie and being like, wow, I love this. Like, this is great. This is doing it for me, and this is working for me. It is a movie that I think has a lot of messy elements and loose threads, but like the Avatar series, the things that it offers, things that it does right, like scratches such an itch in my brain that it kind of just, it's the juice for me. I'm surprised that it's such a high grossing franchise, especially at this point with how weird it's starting to get. But that to me is like the most fascinating piece, because the way I enter that story and get into that world, to me, feels unique, but maybe more people are on that wavelength than you would just assume talking to people casually about movies.
Right. Because, I mean, everyone goes and sees these movies. Like, people who, they're not really entrenched in science fiction.
Right.
They're like, yeah, well, of course we're going to go see the Avatar movies. And is the first one because it was so, such a leap forward visually? Is it because of James Cameron? You know, James Cameron brings a lot of weight with him with both, Terminator, Aliens, and Titanic. He reaches across a lot of aisles. And so maybe it's a perfect storm of all those things. But now Avatar is, an event. You're going to see it, whether you care about, kind of like you said, there is some weirder stuff happening. But yeah, I agree. Like, it's weird that these are the movies that make more money than anything. You would think it would be something a little more relatable or like grounded or, I am not surprised that like the Fast and the Furious movies make a ton of money.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me.
Absolutely.
There's nothing in there that people can't understand. It's loud, it's fast, it's funny, it's entertaining. these movies are pretty contemplative, I feel like.
I think the key to the Avatar franchise is they do work on a couple different levels, and I think they definitely have that contemplative layer. For me, what speaks to me the most is like that ecological layer in the world building in it. But I think it also does work as just kind of a turn your brain off, watch fast images, easy to follow story, sort of like a Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I kind of think that's like the secret to the Avatar movies is they have this sort of vertical integration of storytelling like that can really broaden its appeal.
Right. I mean, this will sound insane, but my favorite part of Way of Water, one of the characters is just cutting fruit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You just see like and the fruit opens up, and I was like, I want more of that. Show me that fruit. Oh, hold on. Slow down, movie. Show me them like making food, you know? And I think that was maybe one of the bigger disappointments for me for Fire and Ash was I felt like Way of Water was like, okay, we did Avatar. We introduced you to Pandora. We introduced you to the Na'vi. But now here is this bigger movie. We're going to a different place. And I felt like they really took a lot of time explaining and being in this new culture of like the water people. I don't even know what they're called.
The Metcalina.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. That.
Not that I'm keeping track or anything, but you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. I kept track, and I'm not going to tell you what I kept track of yet, but this is another thing that people, if you're listening and you love this movie, which 90% of you do, will probably be screaming at me. But I kept a mental counter of one specific thing. Anyway,
I have a theory.
So in Way of Water, I did appreciate that. Like, we're learning about, Payakan and the whales. We're learning about how they can't breathe underwater, but they can hold their breath like way longer, and you can actually be trained to do that. I just felt like we spent a lot of time. In this one, it's like, here's the volcano, people. That's it. We gotta move on. I wanted to know about everything that she was doing in that tent. Tell me more about that. Her little hand tattoo thing where it's like, I'm going to blow drugs up your nose and then like have you trip out and I'm going to like see into your spirit. I kind of wanted to be in that a little bit more, where I felt like this movie didn't have the stance of like, okay, let's meditate on this idea and then pounce when action comes. This was like thing to thing to thing to thing. And I don't know. I think it just wasn't as engrossing as the second one for me.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair and interesting because I found myself like very engrossed by the movie. That's something I have written in my notes is just that like as soon as the movie started, I kind of forgot I was watching a movie. Like that side of my brain that's like analyzing a movie was just kind of off. I was just kind of in it. And like, oh, I'm scared for my characters, or like, oh, get that guy, kill that sky person, you know? So I think, but at the same time, I do understand what you're saying. Like, the Way of Water has that way of, like, really immersing you in that culture and engaging with all the little elements of that culture to make it feel more enriching to spend time there. But I do think that is kind of standard sci-fi trilogy stuff and sci-fi fantasy stuff. Like if you look at The Matrix, we spend a lot more time in the human city in the second one and get to know that a lot more, and then set it up for the big battle in the third. And it's kind of similar in Lord of the Rings. You know, we spend a lot of time with Rohan, and we get kind of just a Gondor crash course, and we're off to a big battle in the third one. So,
I agree, and that also felt, I don't want to say disappointing because whatever, it's just my opinion.
Sure,
but I was like, okay.
You're allowed to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's like it feels like we see the machine moving, And I've heard that, supposedly there's like a 9-hour cut, and I'm very curious. I felt like there was stuff missing. And it was like, okay, what do we need to tell this story? And, we're going to go on several little side quests, but we're all going to end up at the whale ceremony with the magnet vortex. The magnet vortex. I don't hate it. But I was like, Cameron, like, come on. It's like, oh yeah, and also there's this thing.
It's a little magnetic tornado.
Yeah, like, no problem. But if you put tankers near it, everything's gonna be exploding and flying through the sky. And I was like, sure. Okay, so I want to ask you. We're switching around, our focus here, but for the most part, we're dealing with the younger son, who is dealing with the guilt and later in the film he says that he's not to blame for the death of his brother. This is Loak, played by Britton Dalton, but I think that like every other moment of the movie would have us believe that he does feel that he's to blame. So how did you feel about Loak's journey throughout this movie?
Really quick before I begin, I just want to say my wife asked me, she was like, what was that movie about? And I was like,
yeah.
where do I start?
Yes, I agree.
But Loak, yeah, I'm really happy you brought that moment up where he says it's not my fault, because it is an interesting thing, right? We start in the very beginning of the movie seeing this memory and all this implied guilt. We hear him talk about his guilt in the voiceover, if I remember correctly. It's a lot of movie. I'm not sure I remember everything correctly.
Definitely.
But when he get to that point and he says it's not my fault because his dad, Jake Sully, lets slip that he thinks it is his fault. Loak, to me, that moment is like, that's a kind of litmus test on what you like in movies. I think, because it's a really messy moment. It kind of doesn't work. It's like mixing motivations around, like the character, we've heard him say something to us, but now he's saying something else.
Right.
But in my experience, that is how people act like 100% of the time. So I've actually kind of started liking movies that have that kind of messiness in them, just because it is more reminiscent of real humanity to me.
Right.
I think I've been in maybe not that exact same position. I didn't have a brother who I had killed because of a mutant devil clone of a previous commanding officer of my father's. But
right.
Beyond that, I think like having internal guilt about something and then having a family figure point that out, that maybe you were to blame for that thing, and then like being really resistant to that, because it's like, I can hold that guilt for myself, but I can't let you put that guilt on me. Like, that's crossing a line. So to me, that's that kind of weird element that makes me relate to the young people of Avatar a lot, who I think are really below my age group, with the bro crowd.
Right.
And
right.
But I see so much of myself in them, particularly from my like teenage years. But it's still, I'm like, hey, it's still the same. Being 17, it doesn't matter if you're Na'vi or human or Pandora,
right.
Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, they come across as so young. Loak drove me nuts in this movie. Like, really drove me nuts. It was like, dude, how about this? Just shut up and do what you're supposed to do. Also, maybe if like the family that took you in and your whole family, because you guys are basically like wartime refugees, if they're having a council that like belongs to them, I don't know, maybe don't stand up and tell them they're all idiots. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, no, Pike has my brother. And it's like, I don't think that's how it works, man. Like, yeah, you guys are good friends, but, you know.
Talk about a space whale court with Judge Moby Lip-Ring.
Oh, my God. Okay. All right. Listen, I promise to not pick apart this movie at every single turn. How does a matriarch, supposed ancient whale get pierced?
I want to talk about Blade Runner for just a quick second.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because when's the last time you've seen Blade Runner? Here's my argument for Fire and Ash, and I'm not trying to sway your opinion. I'm just, for the sake of conversation and listening pleasure, laying out the reasons why this movie worked for me. Movie like Blade Runner, classic sci-fi, it's pretty weird. You really start thinking about it, a lot of it doesn't work. Where are they making these eyeballs? There's the snake in the strip club. Like, it's a lot. Yeah. But it's so weird and spiritual and engrossing that it has taken this cornerstone place in sci-fi media. And I think Fire and Ash is the first time Avatar has really been going for it. Like, they're like, we're not going to spend a lot of time with the fire people because we also have to fit in the holy cocaine, the pony tentacle brain hijacking, some interspecies smooching, literal god, the flux devil vortex. We're all over the place with this stuff. And for me, I'm like, this is great. Like, keep it weird, keep it fast, keep it deadly.
Yeah, I've always, and this is something that Michelle and I have talked to each other about on the main show and also just privately. It's like, we are so willing to let anything go in a low budget movie. A movie that, we on the show, we call it a schmovie, where it's like, okay, these people are really trying. And it's like, I am an audience member. I accept everything that I see. But then when it comes to a big budget movie, I'm like, nope, sorry, you don't get to have the matriarch have a nose ring without explaining to me who did it, when, why. I don't think that the Na'vi are even big enough to have done it. So now I have to believe that there's some species out there with dexterity of fingers who is between the size of a whale and a Na'vi. Anyway. Look, I'll move on from that. But
if we survive till 2089 and can see Avatar 7 or however many they have planned, maybe we'll finally see that species that does the whale piercing operation.
The piercers. The piercing tribe. But yeah, Loak, he drove me nuts a little bit. And like you said, like, it is so messy between him and Jake. They don't come to a place where in the third act, Loak is like told, okay, stay here and protect your sisters. Like, literally, like, your chief sin was not staying and doing what you're told to do. He does not do that again. And yet Jake isn't like, you know what? All right, you did what you were supposed to do. And now he's like, you've proven yourself to me. And it's like, by breaking the thing that you said to do again. But sometimes a father-son relationship is messy like that, and I don't know if it's just that enough time has passed. I don't know if, this movie talks about the mourning period, and I did like how that idea of, Neytiri praying every day during the daily eclipse. I liked how the movie was kind of bookended with that idea. And it's like, as that day's eclipse ended at the end of the film, it's as if their mourning period for their son is over. Like, they're ready to move on. Now they've had it out. They've gone through the stages of grief, and so it's not that he fixes or solves anything. It's just time has passed. And sometimes that's what it's like with grief, and sometimes that's what it's like with family.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is just acceptance, The whole movie, we see Loak making mistakes in the beginning when he leaves his comms. I'm a dad to a really little kid, so I don't understand what it's like to have a teenager, but I see that, I'm like, oh, I get it, Jake. Like, I get that feeling. but it just feels so real. Like there has to be an acceptance sometimes in order to love someone that like they're not perfect, and even if you tell them like your only mission is to stay in this hole on the seawall,
right,
it might not happen. But also that was kind of a stupid order to begin with, to be fair. I was like, really? You're going to leave them in a hole on the wall? Like, what if somebody sees them? They'll just like, they're stuck there.
They're basically exposed. It's not like they're like looking through like a little peephole during that scene. It's like you can see every one of their bodies. They can see everything that's happening. It's like Jake's like, all right, now stay here in the line of fire. Good luck.
I guess the word I'm looking for is a cave. That's what a hole in a wall is called. Right. It's natural, but yeah, totally exposed.
I did like how Jake admits to being wrong, and he's like, what, you want me to say that every decision I made for this family was wrong? And I'm like, kind of, Jake. Like, yeah, a little bit. Like, I don't know, man.
And I think that kind of speaks to that familial strife, though, sometimes that happens where you get like these dramatic fights, and it's like, what do you want me to do? And it's like, well, yeah, what do I want you to do? Like, there's really no end goal to it. It's just friction. So yeah, and it's stuff like that I think was just shuffling me between scene and scene. Because I will admit, as I think about Fire and Ash, I think the messiness does stand out more. And one thing I noted as I was watching is it does this thing in movies sometimes where it'll be like, here's a scene, and then we're going to cut back to a different scene really quick, just for like 3 seconds, then we're going to cut back over to the main scene and continue onwards. And it's like, why did we cut? What's that about? That's kind of like a little sloppy to me, but the emotional reality of it was just kind of engrossing, plus the visual eye candy that is everything about these movies.
Yeah. I felt that in the edit, and God bless the whole team that made this film. I can't imagine the amount of work that went into it, but I feel that this is episodes of a greater story and stuff. We're missing stuff.
I think Fast and the Furious is a good analogy to this franchise. In terms of when you see a Fast and the Furious movie, you kind of know what you're going to get, like what you're getting into. It's probably going to follow this kind of structure and end with a big set piece with a lot of cars going really fast. Right. And Avatar is kind of shaping up to be, I think, very episodic like that. Like, it almost feels like a TV show that's just in 3-hour, super expensive movie installments that you go see, and you're like, hey, here we go. Here's that familiar thing that happens. And I agree that Fire and Ash feels like it's missing a lot of connective tissue that could expand that story quite a bit. But it feels like it does hit those main beats to like fulfill its job as an Avatar movie. Give you those.
Yeah, definitely.
Familiar.
And I was having flashbacks, like, as Jake Sully is like very damply climbing a crashed warship to his showdown with Quaritch. I was like, wait, isn't this exactly the ending of 2? I was like, this is all happening again. But I will say, my favorite part of the movie was the final showdown. Fighting on the floating islands.
Yeah.
The pieces of metal coming up, the fire coming up, the islands coming down. I was like, this is so well paced. You have a third party in there too, who also is trying to do his own thing, like stretching the bow. And then you have the dynamic between Jake, Quaritch, and Spider. Spider to Jake, Spider to Quaritch, Quaritch to Jake, Jake to Quaritch. Like, there was a lot of things happening, and I just felt that the action, everything matched. I felt like it did. To me, the whole movie did culminate in an exciting set piece. Yes, it's absurd and stupid, but for me, all of that worked. Like, I really, really, really. That was the only part of the movie where I was like leaning forward, like, okay, yeah, like show me what you're gonna do here. I did not like the conclusion to that. Oh my God. Okay. Do you think Quaritch is dead?
No.
No, I don't think so either.
I've seen way too much Star Wars to believe that anyone falling down a pit is dead.
Right.
And
right.
they didn't even give us like a fake foreground fire, flare up to be like, oh, well, the fire must have got him.
Right. We didn't see him impale his shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, nothing. And we literally just see him go, Rah! And then it cuts away. I saw this with my 13-year-old son. He loved it. He had a great time.
Heck yeah.
He was like, this is a great movie. And I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, yes, it is. He's going to listen to this episode and be like, wait, what the heck? But I was like, I need to let him have this theater experience. You know what I mean? I'm not going to like, this movie sucks on the way home. But I looked at him and I was just like, what is happening? And he was like, I don't know. Oh my gosh.
I wrote down that there are movies that feel like video games in a bad way and movies that feel like video games in a good way, to me.
Yep.
Example of a movie that I thought kind of felt like video game in a bad way was like the recent A Quiet Place. I thought that would have been better as a game, and I was like, this is not what I want. This one I was like, oh, I'm so happy they made my favorite video game into a movie because it was like, we keep moving through levels, we keep fighting new enemies, we're fighting like big batches of faceless enemies, like, so we can grind out our skill points. Like, it just felt like that the whole time. And at the end, we get like the Halo first person view on the rifle, and I was just like, oh, it's a great video game,
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Great underrated video game movie. Hundreds of Beavers.
Ooh, did not know that was based on a game.
No, it's not. It's not. But they capture the feeling of grinding for an upgrade better than any movie ever, and it's so seamless. It's wonderful. If anyone out there has not seen Hundreds of Beavers, you gotta see it. It's one of the best. It's so good, and made for the budget of like one day's craft services on Avatar, probably. Okay, so I want to ask you about Neytiri.
Right.
Neytiri is in pain, physically, emotionally, spiritually. She genuinely has nothing. She says, she's like, all I have left is my faith. It's I have not experienced the loss of a child, and so I can't imagine being like, well, but you have this other kid, and there's Spider too, and I don't know, Kiri, and you still have a lot. Like, she has lost everything, her father's bow, and we see her kind of go through the process of gaining strength back, dealing through, working through pain, not just like ignoring it or waiting until it goes away. What did you think about Neytiri in this one?
Yeah, I think The Way of Water is a pretty unimpeachable movie, but one valid line of critique I heard was her arc there was a little bit flat, and she just kind of was ornery the whole movie. In this one, she has a much bigger arc that I think is there's a lot more depth to it and a lot more feeling. That movement from a place of emotional damage and then having that manifest through physical damage in the wound she takes from Varong, and then having to return to her own people to heal that physical wound, and eventually that leads, I think, to her emotional strength too. To me, that was really deep and very well pulled off. I think Zoe Saldana is really the soul and heart of these movies. I think she's always been kind of the secret sauce that made it work. Her portrayal of Neytiri is just so transporting that you kind of forget that you're not watching just the person, like the being who is Neytiri, and you're watching an actor who's actually behind that. So to me, that all worked. I do want to ask you, because I didn't see Hamnet, do you think Neytiri instead should have been writing a musical to get over her grief, or a play?
It's you should see Hamnet. It's very good. It's very, very good. I was with Neytiri much more than I was with Jake in this. You know, I think it's Loak is still narrating, and he says, you know, my mom has her way, my dad has his way, which is say nothing and keep busy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very stereotypical, you know, male way of doing things. He said that, and I was like, hey, wait. But, I mean, I'm a yapper, so if I was working through something, I would probably not be saying nothing, but I would be keeping busy. But I was much more on Neytiri's side, and, like, honestly, like, her whole thing of, like, we gotta kill Spider. Like, this is insane. I was like, yeah, you know, it's harsh, but, you know, she's thinking, and Sam, not Sam, Jake, I found him to be kind of one note, and not to bring up Fast and Furious again, but it's like, Jake, we get it that you love family, but like every sentence out of your mouth has to have the word family in it. And I was like, yo, this is like, just think outside of your box for like half a second, you know, listen to your wife and what she's going through. And, you know, he eventually comes around and he's like, yeah, we do have to kill Spider. But I kind of wish that this was more Neytiri's story, especially with the rise of is it Varane?
I think it's Verong, but
Verong.
I could be Verong, so don't take my word for it. It's a dad joke for the Jake Sullys out there.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, you know, they have a very yin-yang experience throughout the movie, Neytiri and Varong.
Definitely.
And, you know, it's the devil to Jake's Messiah, right, is Quaritch, and then Varong is the mate, and I don't know, I just kind of wish that it was a little bit more with her and her kind of taking the lead. And then another part of the movie that I did really like was her sneaking into the ginormous human compound, which is like the size of, I don't know, like an entire state, I guess. And I was like, this is the Matrix. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I've been here before. But I did like her whole heist to get Jake out.
Yeah, it was really exciting. The design of that city was really, really cool. I loved how there was like this underwater section that I think was all like the groundwater, like they had dug it all away, and I dug that. I just keep going back to, it's kind of like, to me, that's just good sci-fi. Like, you're watching a giant blue cat alien lady ride a dragon into a cyber city, and like,
right,
like I'm there, you know, like, do whatever you want. Then there's a huge explosion. It's filmed super well. The visual craftsmanship is just on full display. I think in terms of bouncing around the characters, though, I think part of the appeal to me is the ensemble of the cast, because I feel differently for each of the characters. Like I said, I have a connection with Loak because I see like my 17-year-old self in him. With Jake and Neytiri, I mean, obviously I'm a man, but you know, I think real people lie on a spectrum, sort of more between true like stereotypical masculine traits and stereotypical feminine traits. Like,
sure, yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, the animus kind of idea. So I see myself a little bit in each of them. Like, I have a little bit of that Jake quality in that I just want to keep moving. I don't want to take a lot of time for emotionality, but I'm more like Neytiri in a lot of ways, that I get caught in like a more of a depressive drag like that, especially with grief and things. So, I see myself in both of them a little bit. So having them sort of shift the focus throughout the movie didn't really bother me, and I think was actually something that kept me more engaged, just because I am interested in all the characters of Avatar, and I think that will ultimately decide whether you like this movie a lot or not, is how much you like these characters going in. And so I was happy to like see each of them go through their own little journeys.
Yeah, I now I'm gonna compare two characters, and please, I'm not comparing them in any way other than this one. So everyone, calm down. But I am a big Willie Scott defender from Temple of Doom, Indiana
Okay.
Jones. Everyone hates Kate Capshaw's performance in that movie because it's like, oh, she's just screaming the whole time. But to me, I'm like, yeah, if I was in, like, I don't know, the Temple of Doom, yes, characters should be reacting to what's happening. And I get it. You can't have a movie if Indiana Jones is like, "Ee, ah, ooh, ah," to every little thing, right? You have to move along and you can't stop to comment on everything. But that's the part that I like. I like the inner workings of the character. I like the story. I'm a story person. Visuals, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm here for the story. And so I'm a Willie defender, and that's why for me I'm like, Jake, like, stop. Like, you have to stop. And Neytiri has stopped. Like, she is in mourning. She is reacting to what's happening, where you're just like, I'm gonna go get more guns, even though, like, the people that I'm with are like, no guns. And in the end, it's like, did the guns even really help them? Like, I think that Jake sees one path ahead, and it's not even, it doesn't save them. Like, Jake does not save them in this movie. Loak saves them through the whole whale thing, and then Kiri through the whole squid thing. So, yeah.
Look, I don't know if I can sit here and take that slander to our very own Turek Maktow after all he did for us.
I mean, yeah, he's
Uniting
got
the
a big
clans,
bird,
getting all those
Okay.
explosive for Neytiri's arrows. Don't say those didn't come in handy. She used a lot of those.
She did.
That was
She did.
deadlier than the Flux Devil.
She did, but she used those to get him out. Is this? Have you ever heard the whole thing about, going back to Indiana Jones, that, like, Indiana Jones has no effect on the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? There was a glitch.
Oh, have you ever heard that Indiana Jones has no effect on the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah. He's like, what do they call that? Inactive protagonist? Passive protagonist?
So I'm wondering if Jake Sully... like, if we went back, it's like, would everything have played out the exact same way? It's hard to say, but his big bird thing had one move. It grabs it and then uses the weight to whip it around, throw it at another plane, but it was effective.
Look,
and it did it like 6 or 7 times. I was like, it's doing it again. Here we go. And I'm not making fun. Like, I was like, yeah, that's kind of what you should do. Yeah.
That's what you were keeping count of the whole time?
No. Okay. So this is what I was keeping count of. I did find the English language slang inclusion in Way of Water to be, like, really jarring. In the first Avatar, it makes more sense because it's more about, like, hey, these are the humans who are using these Avatar bodies, right?
Right.
And so you had a lot more of the character and a lot more of the dialogue was like, hey, whoa, this is weird. We're Americans and now we're aliens. And the second one, way, way, way less, right? We're way more with the Na'vi. But anyway, so I kept a bro and cuz counter.
I knew it.
I was gonna try to do 2. I was like, I'm gonna, but I was like, no, I won't be actually watching the movie. So I lumped bro and cuz together. In the end, I think there was only 3 or 4 cuzes, but I ended at 24 for the movie.
That's a lot.
Well, a good percentage of that is in the first scene where it's like that memory, dream, whatever. And I think in that one there's like 6 or 7, and I was like, oh my god, 3.5 hours. I'm going to get to 50, 60, 70, who knows how many. So the fact that we only ended around 24. So if anyone wants to fact check me, next time you go see Fire and Ash, keep track of the bros and the cousins.
The worst part is I'm absolutely planning to see it again, and I am definitely gonna have to like suppress the like urge to be like, is that 5 or 6? Like,
Right.
just watch the movie. Just watch the movie.
Yeah. And luckily they come spread out far enough that it wasn't distracting for me to keep count.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in The Way of Water, right, in the very beginning, we hear Jake narrate that eventually the Na'vi language just sounded like English to his ears. So they're supposed to be speaking a Na'vi.
Right, correct.
So my interpretation of the incorporation of that slang was actually that's like Na'vi slang glommed onto us. Now that's, of course, the kind of like loose in-universe explanation that is easy to say on the flip side when the reality is definitely like the appeal. It's meant an attempt to appeal to a younger demographic.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
and I did keep that in mind. We get a little bit of that when Quaritch and Varang show up to the military base. And, you know, she isn't speaking English, and so they're kind of going back and forth. And so I get that, and I do accept it, but it is still jarring. Like, it's still like, I mean, okay. All right. Spider at one point in this movie. Okay. One, he has a scene where it's almost like he's trying to use a different curse every new line. It's very funny. But then later in the film, and I'm sorry, this is my biggest hang up with this movie is Spider calls the helicopter pilot who's trying to shoot Jake Sully, pendejo. Where did Spider learn this word?
okay,
Spider, who was born on Pandora, right?
yeah.
Okay. Where did he learn this word?
So one thing I love about the Avatar movies is with most things you see. This is like the recipe version, you know, like when I was a young girl in Southern Appalachia. Now, there's like, if you start thinking about it, there is like that kind of in-universe explanation, like, oh yeah, like maybe they're calling each other bro because in Na'vi, like an abbreviated brother is like a really common term for each other. The pendejo thing just threw me for a loop. I was like, where does he know that? How does he know that word? Who did he learn that from? The best I could think is that when he was a kid, he was growing up around a lot of Marines, you know? So maybe picked it up from Z-Dog.
Oh God! I mean, the thing is, like, it's possible, but it's just so. It's not even cool. Like, it's not even like. It's like, oh yeah, that was a great moment. I was like, that was the weirdest. You are trying to distract this helicopter from like shooting your dad. And you're like, yo, pendejo. Like, it truly brings me back to the Texas Chainsaw moment that, you know, it's like, do your worst cuz, you know? And it's like, it's not that saying cuz to Leatherface is necessarily wrong. It's just in its usage. So, you know, if Spider was like, returning home and he's like, yo, pendejo, like something, I don't know, something else, but it was so weird. It was so weird.
What I think would have like been amazing if we could have seen it is a layup for that scene, maybe even in the previous movie when he's with the Marines where he learns that word.
Yeah.
Especially because the Na'vi use the word scown a lot. Like, that's a really big part of their vocabulary. So maybe he's like, oh, that's like the equivalent of scown. Because, I mean, he doesn't speak English that often, right? Until he was with Quaritch's group. So, yeah, that would have been great. But, yeah.
It sticks out like a sore thumb. It is insane. So, okay, on to Spider.
Let me ask you a question.
Feel free.
Did you find it Abrahamic when Jake was going to kill Spider?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But then doesn't.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, for the half a second where I thought he killed Spider, I was like, okay, this movie's great. So, seriously, I was like, wow, they really did it. And then it's like, oh, no, they didn't.
It was like the most fake out noise ever, too. It's like he stabs the air and it bleeds.
Right.
Yeah, that was not my favorite moment, but I was struck in that moment that it was really obvious that Cameron was going for like biblical like iconography in this movie.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of that between that moment with everything that happens with Kiri and her like prophet of Awa sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just and I thought Varong too was kind of like a Satan figure with her fire and sort of rejection of Awa. You know, it's very like some interpretations of Satan.
Someone who has been burned by God and is now going on a campaign to be like, oh, I mean, we're just gonna be horrible and do crazy. Because at first I was like, why are you attacking these Sky Trader people? David Thewlis doesn't seem like he's done anything to anyone. He
barely did anything.
Right. Yeah, at the end I was like, that was David Thewlis. Why'd you have David Thewlis in this? What on earth? What are you guys spending your money on? You guys got Thewlis money, I guess. All right. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it is very apparent. And I think that that's usually how authors try to convey, I'm using this word not in the, modern internet slang way, but they're trying to convey epicness through the use of religious like iconography and themes, because we're kind of entrenched in those are entrenched within us, just through cultural osmosis or through actual knowledge of biblical themes. And I kind of just wish that they would do something a little different, because I feel like this idea is original and they have a whole world to explore, so you don't need to bring it to our world, I guess is kind of how I feel about that. Also, I just wish that they actually stabbed Spider in the head.
Do you just not like Spider, or?
I do not like Spider.
Oh, interesting.
I do not like that guy.
How did you feel when he smooched Kiri?
I think Kiri smooched him.
Ooh, that's true. It's true.
I was fine with that, actually. I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. But
you were like, stay away from her. Get a job.
No, I think that she likes him, but that felt kind of true to, they kind of grow up together, but they're not related. And I think they have feelings for each other. And I think it's okay for characters to, even though she's, this messianic figure, I think it's okay for them to, I don't know, smooch a little bit. Who cares? You're young kids. That's what kids do,
Just a little bit of smooching.
Yeah, why not? But Spider, yeah, I feel bad. Oh, man. The acting in that scene was rough for me.
I've heard that
you
take
have
a few
your
times.
dad killing you, and he's like, wait, no. Wait, don't do this. And I was like, bro, like, you gotta give a little bit more. And he did not give a little bit. But again, I did like him towards the end, in that battle. Jake's leg is hurt, Quaritch's arm is hurt. Together they're both, literally reaching for Spider. I was surprised that they didn't dwell on the fact that Jake almost, like, I was like, okay, this is how they turn Spider. Because in the last movie, Spider saves Quaritch, and it's kind of like a whoa moment. And I was like, how are they going to turn this kid like to the dark side? And I was like, oh well, yeah, your dad almost killing you. That's a good one.
Yeah, you think that would have a little more lasting repercussions. But I think that moment is still like part of Jake's arc in the story, right? That's him like finding his faith in the family that he believes in, but thinking like beyond tactical pragmatism and more with his heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I but like at the same time, I'm like, okay, but like they do have a point. Like,
oh, for sure.
I don't know that you necessarily need to kill Spider, but like priority number one, like I'm sorry about all the whales, but like you need to get this kid off grid somewhere. This kid cannot be taken by the humans ever again, because yes, if they figure out how to breathe on the planet, that's endgame. That the whole thing is over. So now Spider is like kind of the most important person, and that was also very annoying to me. Like oh man, the ending of this movie is basically James Cameron's appeal for why white people belong in the native spaces. And it's like Spider gets to go to the spirit realm and everyone's like, what's up, bro? And it's like, what is happening here?
I think they literally say, you're one of us now. And like all
all
place their hands
the
on
white
him.
man with dreads finally gets to be accepted into the fold of, and they have like all the different races of Na'vi there. And like, I at that point I was like flipping my popcorn bucket. I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I was like, this whole thing was about Spider? This was the Spider movie? I thought this was an Neytiri movie. What's happening?
I loved this movie, but I was kind of in shock at that last scene. Immediately, the first thing I thought is like, this is going to be a meme that we see over and over and over again. It just has that quality. I think it's a good time to mention, it's not my lane, but there is a sort of uncomfortable analog to American indigenous societies versus colonialist forces.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as I do love these movies, I think sometimes when you think about the parallels to that, it does become a little more uncomfortable, particularly in the portrayal of the Fire Na'vi.
Yeah.
It kind of... I have something I call the orc problem, which is where you portray in media like your antagonistic force as like a one-dimensional evil by design and usually ugly or presenting like horde of drones that you can just kill in an ethical sense because they don't matter because they're intrinsically evil.
Right.
Because I think historically people always, they characterize their antagonists in other people along those lines, so we feel better about going to war with them, those kind of things. And while I don't, I love a lot of media, including Lord of the Rings, but I named the orc problem after, that is an element of media that I find a little weak. And I was a little disappointed to see that in the Fire Na'vi. They're all kind of just like ugly except for Varong. And we don't have any like micro characters within them. Like there's a scene where the Metcaina clan and Jake and his family are facing off against Quaritch and Varong and her people and the Sky people. And they're all standing in these big lines facing each other. And on one side, we have like Jake and Ronal and Neytiri and Cliff Curtis's character's name I'm blanking on. And then on the other side, we have Quaritch and Vrong. And I'm like, I wish I knew just like one other person. And I don't need them to have like a name or a big line, but just, like one Fire Na'vi who kind of like is around her more, like her her prime captain or something. Just something to give it a little texture, something to give them a little depth and not just so much one-dimensionality.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The part that bothers me about this whole thing is what dialect is Kate Winslet doing? You know what I mean? Like, why we've made great strides in casting people to play roles that should go to them instead of every role of every race going to white people. Historically, I got nothing wrong with white people. I married a white person. Myself, big fan, right? But historically, the scale has been tipped very unfairly, right, in their favor. And there's been a lot of good casting decisions over the last couple of years to balance that out. And then in Avatar, it's like, right, but here you get to play, basically Native American. And it's like, Una Chaplin, here you go. You could not play this role unless you were playing a CGI character, but you are. And it's not even like a stretch. You know what I mean? We're literally doing just analogs now to our own planet. And that is weird to me because you have built this world where ginormous floating cuttlefish carry ships through floating rock islands. You've invented so much. Why couldn't you invent your own thing? Like it is just so much. And the only, it would be great if the fourth Avatar you find out that the Fire Tribe was right all along. I would be. It turns out it's like Awa is actually. You do the Final Fantasy X thing where it's like, oh, actually, the god that they all believe in is evil.
That'd be so cool. I would love
here
that
you go.
so much.
Now finish the rest of the game. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But yeah, and I've watched a lot of behind the scenes featurettes on Avatar. It's really clear that the team that designed the Na'vi culture and their language and their look did a lot of work to try and make it a composite of cultures around the world. But the setting is just so analogous to particularly the American West, especially when you have movies starting with like indigenous tribes taking down trains, raiding trains. And then in this one, you have the war whoops of the war whoops of the Fire Na'vi, and I'm like, that's just like this is very indigenous American coded,
right? Right.
Yeah. So there's a discomfort there. The aspect of ecological appeal of Avatar, the environmentalism kind of aspect of it, kind of does break through that for me. But again, that's my extremely white guy perspective. So that's a critique that I think should be kept in mind. Just because.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with voicing those things, because if no one does, then it's just like, well, I mean, God bless James Cameron. He's a great filmmaker. He's made a lot of money, and a lot of people really love his work. And I'm not trying to be like, you shouldn't like these movies, or James Cameron is, bad in some way. I just think this is limited. It's a limited view, much like every piece of art is always going to be limited view. And it's interesting to say like, oh, we did all this work to make a composite of different people. Just make up a new alien race. Like, it doesn't need to be, again, like a 1-for-1 for us to see the mega corporation is bad and the native people are good. We experience that day in and day out in our everyday life. You don't need to be. And that's kind of the other thing that struck me about this one compared to Way of Water was, I said to myself many times, I was like, wow, these are broad strokes. Like we are really, again, coming back to Jake, like almost every single sentence is like family, family, family. And that's not bad. It's not bad to have a point and to try to express that point, especially like you said, to a younger audience. I think sometimes as we get older and we find great like nuanced work that really speaks to us.
Absolutely.
Right? We can like we can really hunger for that, and then we can resent and I promise I'm not saying this in any kind of derogatory way, but like we can start to resent the baby food version of those things, where it's like, oh, well, why does it have to be so obvious? Why does that? Because for a 10-year-old kid who goes to see Fire and Ash in the movie theater, they are experiencing some of these themes and some of these ideas for the first time, and it is blowing their mind. You know, I've said it before, for a 4-year-old kid, when they experience the 3-act structure, their mind is blown, right? And we should never lose sight of that. And these are for a broad audience. And quite frankly, I said the same thing about Wicked for Good. It's like, does it make its message as detailed as we would want? No, but this is a major Hollywood movie that is still putting out a good message for people to learn, you know, to be decent human beings and to not enslave people, to not that it's unfortunate that broad of a message is countercultural again. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I do think it also includes the message that, given the opportunity, you should summon a pod of angry squid to kill all humans in the vicinity. I've seen online a little bit of discourse that suggests that in this movie, James Cameron is sort of pushing the idea that maybe violence is necessary against such odds. How do you feel about that?
I'm the sucker who's like, you know, no violence, love people until they change. If someone is mean to you, that is on them, that is not on you. We should not be changed to be hateful just because we live in a hateful world. That's me. And so I always lean towards that. However, I also understand and acknowledge that much of human advancement in the stride towards equality is through physical, material action. I think you have to have both. I think that you have to have the two sides. I land on one side personally, but I'm not going to say like, oh no, like there has never been a use for physical action. So yeah, I definitely think that that's the journey that he takes these characters through, because the stakes are so high. Like, it's not just like, oh, if you have a bully, you shouldn't punch him in the nose. This is extinction. When extinction is on the table, now it's time to actually do something. I thought of you as I was watching. With I don't know what the whales are called. I just call them the whales.
The tulkun?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Space whales.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, we're doing the Ents. We're doing, the sandworms. But when the matriarch would talk and you would get the sound ripples.
So cool.
The vibrations. I was like, oh, man, Paul's going to love that.
And indeed I did. Every time that big whale talked, I was like, say more, scene kid whale.
Oh,
your beautiful tattoos
yes.
and gauges, but yeah. I really, the fabric, the big fabric tassels, I was like, how does that not create more drag? But whatever.
Right. Hey, whatever. They're strong.
If you can make the water ripple like that with your voice, you can pull some fabric tabs.
Yeah. I think that if Cameron is saying violence is occasionally necessary, I think, he's lived a long life. He's seen a lot. We know that he has studied history. He's studied science. I'm okay with someone coming to that conclusion. And again, I think it's kind of ignorant of history, and our own current situation to be like, everything will be okay as long as we're all good.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you can't be good anymore.
Just love the sky people enough, and they'll stop.
Right.
They only want your brain juice.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That would. Okay. Quick mention to Jemaine Clement, who I guess I didn't know was doing an accent until halfway through this movie, and maybe he didn't either.
It's part of his character arc.
Yeah. I like Jemaine Clement. I think that he's funny. And I also liked that when Neytiri is going to save Jake, it's like a 3-part, like Spider's there in costume,
Mm-hmm.
Neytiri's hiding out, Jemaine Clement is doing his own thing, and none of them are working together. Like, they don't all realize. Okay, next big gripe is, do we need Jake Sully in an orange jumpsuit?
Yes.
Okay. That is also, I wrote down in my little notebook, I said, what are we doing? Like,
How else would you know he's a prisoner?
okay, but how do they have a Na'vi-sized orange jumpsuit ready?
Look, I'm just saying, if you're making Marines into Na'vi, you're making some other, types of clothing along with it.
So you think that somewhere back there they have like a chef outfit for a Na'vi?
Probably some like onesie pajamas,
Right.
IGA bathrobe.
I hated that so much because it was like I think the phrase is like a hat on a hat, and I don't know that this is a hat on a hat, but I know that it's an orange jumpsuit on a Na'vi, and I was like, I never needed to see that. I don't like this. But okay, all right, movie. Okay, is there anything that we did not? And I'm sure there's 20 things, but if there's anything that we did not talk about yet that you wanted to mention, feel free to bring it up now.
I wanted to ask you what you thought about Varong, because I feel like we didn't really talk about her, and she is kind of the main feature of the movie. I think a lot of the discourse is around that performance and that character.
Yeah. I thought it was good. I thought it was, she was interesting, and again, I would have liked to have seen more.
I agree.
Her whole character is summed up in, like a couple of sentences when she's like, the fire came from the ground and burned my whole forest. And I prayed and no one answered, so now I hate God. And it's like, yes, but maybe a little more. I don't know. Like it was all so tidy, I suppose. And like you said, we don't get conversations between her and the rest of her tribe or followers. Like, I don't even really know how to categorize them. Everything with her is kind of visual, right? It's the flare of fire. Mm-hmm. It's the hand tattoo. So yeah, I would have liked a little bit more. Luckily, I don't think she dies. She just kind of turns around and then is gone from the movie, if I recall.
Like exit stage left.
Yeah.
Something I really did like about her performance was this layer underneath that only comes out like 2 or 3 times, where it seems like there is this kind of authentically hurt and fearful self, like maybe a little girl having witnessed that volcanic incident, sort of what I went to. But it seems like she both authentically feels that pain, but also is aware of it enough to use it to manipulate individuals. At one point, she breaks it out, I think, to Neytiri, when Neytiri has the upper hand against her, or maybe it's when Kiri does. I don't remember, but I just remember thinking that was like a really like an element that added a lot of depth, and I haven't seen it discussed a lot. So that's one thing I wanted to shout out. One other element I want to bring up before we go is just a line that Jake says to Neytiri quickly when he's talking about killing Spider, normal things, and says they're going to destroy the oceans and the atmosphere just like they did back on Earth.
Yes.
And that line kind of felt like a brick to me, just like dropped, but very organically woven into the story. And I think that's what James Cameron would want us to come away with, right? Is to see these movies and think like, I don't want this to happen on Pandora. Like, why would I let it happen here?
Right.
And I do think, to what you were saying with a simple message but well conveyed, I think that comes through. And I think a line like that is a really smart way to get that theme across in a really unsubtle way, and yet you're not beating the audience over the head with it, so it feels like a preaching message.
Right. No, I do not take these movies as preachy at all. I think that it's telling us a story of things that are happening within a world, within a context of the history of this timeline. And I think that if someone were to find this preachy, you're probably just a jerk.
Maybe you just really want that Amrita money.
Right, exactly. Quick shout out to Pycon, everyone's favorite little whale dude, who's like really small, it turns out.
Yeah, I was not prepared for that.
Because in the last movie he's like tearing everything up, and then in this one it's like, oh, he's like a baby. Sure, but I did laugh, and I know I shouldn't laugh, but when he says the line, "You will never hear my song again," and then dips, he's like, bye. And I kind of was like, wow, is Pycon like out of this movie? And then we see him again, and I'm like, wait, you liar.
Who
we
among
did hear
us
your song again.
Hasn't had a karaoke night end that way?
Right.
I mean,
shout out to Quaritch. When she blows the drugs in him, he's like, whoa, that wasn't cool.
Stephen,
or that's maybe when she cuts him. I'm not sure, but I did think that was funny.
Stephen Lang made me feel like every emotion towards him in this movie at one point or another, and I think that was really golden, because maybe the MVP.
Stephen Lang is, I think, no shade to Sam Worthington, but like you were saying with Zoe Saldana, she is actually like the most interesting person to watch, I think, in these movies. Stephen Lang, I think, is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely can't really put. I can't get a pulse on Quaritch. Like, I have no idea what that dude wants. Like, he says he wants Jake Sully, and then just repeatedly is like, actually, I pretty firmly believe that the end point of the whole thing is turning Quaritch.
Mm-hmm.
He straight up slaps away the idea of oh, what now? We're gonna put our braids together, and I'll see you and you'll see me. And so if it didn't happen this movie, I think it will eventually kind of happen down the line. Maybe Jake will sacrifice himself to save Quaritch. I don't know what, but you can't have these two dudes who are bound together through so much death, but also life, like the life of Spider, and one of them, I don't know, I think that their paths will cross, not that they'll see each other again, but their paths will converge and go different ways. But yeah, I liked Quaritch in this. I thought that he was pretty interesting. Okay, so my son has seen the other movies, and then he was very confused when they went to the spirit world, and it's here's everyone who's ever lived and died, and Sigourney Weaver. And he was like, wait, who is that? And I was like, just get in the car. I'll tell you later. Don't worry about it.
But I think her soul was subsumed by Aba when they transferred her in that spirit ceremony.
And I didn't cry, but the ending of the second one, so much better than this one. That whole tree of life thing and passing on, it was so reverent, and I thought it was really beautifully done. I was like, wow, this is also awesome. Just like the fruit cutting scene earlier in that movie.
2 highlights of the movie, 2 big takeaways.
Okay, last question. Did they make Sigourney Weaver deliver her infamous line from Aliens in a different way in this movie? When she says, leave my mother alone, and then does she call Varan bitch?
Oh yeah, 100%. Okay. But what I really want to know is when she uses the voice on Loak in the forest, was that a nod to Dune?
Right, and is that something... I mean, obviously, yeah, and that is also kind of frustrating. It's like, James Cameron, you're telling me that you spent all of this time just to, lift from these other epic stories? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what sci-fi fantasy is, though, right? It's just a remix of elements, rehashed in different ways, and like, what are you going to do with those? James Cameron's opinion, I think, is to make is the most accessible, visually maximalist alien, indigenous versus colonizing human space story he can, and I'm down for that. But yeah, absolutely, it's definitely a mixture of all sorts of tropes and things we've seen before.
I was like, I can't believe that I'm hearing this coming out of Teenage Sigourney Weaver, and like James Cameron is like, hey, remember when we did that thing 45 years ago? What if we did a little nod to that?
Do you think it was better than Alien Romulus?
No, I actually liked it better than Alien Romulus.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, again, feel free to scream at me in your car. But anyway, and then last shout out, Ronald dies in childbirth, but not from childbirth. And I was just eating all that up. I was like, yes, Neytiri, strap this baby to your chest and then go back and fight. Yeah, yep. I thought that was all pretty great.
Yeah,
and I think going into this, a lot of the the buzz I think was, is Jake gonna die? Is Neytiri gonna die in this one? Someone big is gonna die, and then it was Renal. Not to say that Renal's not a big character, but I was like, oh, all right.
Hey, Scoresby died too.
Oh, that's. That's right. And I mean, I'm sure one of those whales died. I don't know. Did any of the whales die?
It kind of looked like a lot of them died, but I'm not sure. Maybe they were just taking damage. Maybe it's a flesh wound.
Can you imagine just like going to a whale ceremony? Like it'd be like going to a wedding. You're like, yeah, I got a wedding next Saturday. And then I see you on Monday. I'm like, hey, what happened to that wedding? You're like, you will not believe. You will not believe what happened at the whale gathering this year.
I do want to give one last shout out to my friend Connor, who I knew in college, who worked on Avatar, including this movie. And yeah, bang up job.
Very good. Thank you, Connor. Thank you for all your hard work. I, again, can't imagine. I'm not trying to belittle the film, because I cannot imagine the work that goes into like every single part of this. It's that is kind of staggering to me. Like, I'm thinking of Neytiri, like under the city, her bird thing is like going like, and she's like, quiet. The amount of work that just went into that shot,
Just the textures. There were moments where I was like, how is that? Like, my brain literally cannot accept that that's not a real, physical, tangible object.
Yeah. I should say I saw this in a very small theater. 3 other people scattered throughout the audience. About a third of the way through the film, 50% of the volume cut out. I don't know if the speakers just died.
That tool
and I
voice.
Really was like, I'm going to get up and go say something. And then I thought, nope, actually, this is exactly how I want to watch this movie. Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, thank you for coming back and jumping on to talk about this movie. Yeah, Paul, where can people find you online?
Well, I'm not a real film person, but I do like to talk about movies online. So you can find me at Trygraptor on Twitter. Still not calling it X. And that's basically it. I'm on Letterboxd under the same handle.
All right, and that is Trygraptor.
That's me.
Trygraptor, which was a name that confused Michelle and I for many months.
Has that effect on a lot of people.
Yeah, and then we saw your name, and I was like, oh, that's okay. Yeah. Got it. Hey, and thank you very much for listening. Look, I know that you're mad at me, and I welcome it. I accept it. Please send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about Avatar, Fire and Ash. Let us know what you thought about Spider and the Spirit Realm. I don't know, man. Whatever. Send us an email. moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Hey, you can also, I'm not good at this. Normally I have Michelle to keep me on track. What is it? Send us an email. You can, hey, if you love listening to this, or if you hate, well, no, actually only if you loved listening to this, please give us a rating and a review wherever you are listening. Really helps the show, and it gives me something to send to my co-host, and I'll also send it to Paul. I'll be like, Paul, look at the comments that people left on that episode that we did about Avatar, and he'll be like, whoa, don't you want to be the catalyst for Paul saying, whoa, I know I do, but I can't leave a review for the show. You can, so please do that. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. Look, folks, okay, for like 1/10 of the price that it cost for you to see Avatar, Fire and Ash, which I know that you're going to see 4 times in the theater, okay? You can support an independent movie podcast. You get access to all of our additional episodes and series, our patron-only Discord. Hey, you get to vote on upcoming episodes every month and quarterly themes. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Also, hey, you don't have to listen to ads. Whoa, that's cool too. And I think that's it. I think that's the end of everything. This was a longer episode than I expected, but it was also a longer movie than I expected. I got to tell you, Paul, I did not know this movie was over 3 hours long.
When Spider kept talking about how he had to take a leak, I think Cameron was just trolling us.
Yes, because I had to also take a leak.
Same.
And instead of being able to take that leak, I was guided by Jake Sully further into the movie.
I thought, as bad as I need the way of water, I just don't want this to end.
Right. All right. Well, hey, thanks, man. This was great, and I appreciate your patience with talking to me about this movie.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right. Hey, and thank you very much for listening. Until next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Theme music by Jean Marie Vargas. Visit us at our website, moviefriendspodcast.com, and please subscribe and rate our show wherever you are listening. You can support Movie Friends at patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. Thanks for listening.